Curious about lip filler? Whether you want a subtle pout or bold plump, Juvederm lip fillers can give you a customized lip look. Juvederm Volbella XC and Juvederm Ultra XC can last up to a full year with optimal treatment, giving your lips added volume for smooth, natural-looking, and long-lasting results. Whether you're concerned about your thin lips or simply want fuller lips, ask about Juvederm lip fillers at your next appointment with your licensed specialist. And download the Ally app, that's ALLE, the official loyalty program of Juvederm, to save on treatments. For important safety information and to find a licensed specialist, visit Juvederm.com. That's JUVEDERM.com. Not for people with severe allergic reactions, allergies to lidocaine, or the proteins used in Juvederm. Common side effects include injection site redness, swelling, pain, tenderness, firmness, lumps, bumps, bruising, discoloration, or itching. There's a risk of unintentional injection into a blood vessel, which can cause vision abnormalities, blindness, stroke, temporary scabs, or scarring. Talk to a licensed specialist to find out if it's right for you.
Persol and Verilux are teaming up for the ideal eyewear fit, combining timeless design with progressive lenses. Iconic style meets unparalleled vision performance, making the extraordinary effortless. Discover Verilux and Persol and find your local Essilor expert at Essilor.com.
Stephen King taught us some important lessons while ascending to his rightful place as America's most prolific author of horror and supernatural fiction. For instance, don't dump pig's blood on Carrie, never stay at the Shining's Overlook Hotel, and for goodness sake, tread lightly when dealing with a 1958 Plymouth Fury named Christine. King takes the classic tale of boy meets girl to frightening heights when a geeky teenager named Arnie falls for a red Plymouth Fury with a sketchy past. Christine falls hard for Arnie too, which would be roses and balloon drops if it weren't for one tiny detail. The car is a killing machine with a long memory and a short fuse. Moral of the story, never underestimate the fury of a Fury, particularly one that just won't die. So jump in the Fury, put out your cigar, and try not to choke on your hamburger as Laramy Wells and I discuss Christine from 1983 on this episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast.
She lives.
What do you mean, came back?
She loves.
I'm sorry, Arnie, I can't.
She's a beauty.
I know you're jealous.
She's a beast.
The kid was cut in half, Arnie.
She's a killer.
The riot is over.
She's a 58 Fury. She's Christine.
You ain't mad, are you?
Christine. She's hell on wheels. Rated R. Coming soon to a theater near you.
I'm Tim Williams, the mastermind behind the mic at the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Joining me on each epic episode is a guest co-host who's as crazy about 80s flicks as they are about wearing parachute pants and solving Rubik's Cubes. We're diving into nostalgic treasures we saw at the local theater, rented on VHS tapes, or discovered on cable TV. From blockbusters that make you say,
I feel the need for speed.
To hidden gems that'll have you screaming,
They're here.
It's a blast to relive these old memories and share our thoughts on what made these movies so special. We reminisce about our first time watch experiences, share our favorite scenes, and even discover fascinating behind the scenes tales about the cast and crew along the way. Haven't hit that subscribe button yet? What are you waiting for?
Come on, do it.
On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. And hey, while you're at it, be a pal and drop us a written review along with a 5-star rating to tell us what you think about us.
The sportos, the motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
Take a day off and come hang out with us on social media. Just search 80s Flick Flashback on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And don't forget to bookmark 80sflickflashback.com for more gnarly content.
Get out of town. I didn't know you did anything creative.
Want to crank it all the way up to 11? Become a supporter on buymeacoffee.com for only $5 a month.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Click the link in our episode show notes, and while you're there, soak up the extra trivia and fun stuff that didn't make it into today's show. Thanks again for tuning in. Now, let's get right into today's episode.
Welcome to the party, pal.
All right, well, welcome in, everybody. So glad to have you on this episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. And we're talking about a movie that may not be one of the most beloved Stephen King adaptations, but still one worth talking about. We're talking about Christine from 1983, based on the Stephen King novel, even though the book wasn't actually out yet when they started filming that. We'll get into that in a minute. But let me introduce my guest co-host for this episode, who loves to read a book and then talk about the movie that it's based on. It's Laramy Wells from Moving Panels Podcast.
I know, it's almost as if I should do a podcast about that, where I read books and connect it to movies somehow.
Yeah. But maybe not like novels, but maybe like books with pictures in them.
Graphic novels, yes.
Graphic novels. Yeah. Oh.
I don't need too many words.
Right. Let's jump right in. When did you see Christine for the first time?
Ooh, it was a good long part of later in life.
Right.
Not because I was trying to avoid it. I don't think I knew this existed until I was older. I am a big Stephen King fan, but I don't think I knew this movie existed. You know, kind of like you said, it's not really one that people talk about when they're talking about Stephen King movies. I also think a lot of people maybe connect it more with John Carpenter, considering it actually says John Carpenter's Christine.
Yeah.
But it was probably, I don't know, it was probably late 2000s.
Okay.
So maybe not 2010s yet, but maybe late 2000s when I first saw it.
Yeah, it's been much later for me. Like, I think the first time I watched this was actually this past Halloween. Like, I usually watch, scary movies during that season more so. But like I said, well documented on this podcast, I wasn't a huge horror movie fan growing up. And of course, this coming out in 83, I was much too young to see this at a young age. And I'm kind of like you. Like, I wasn't aware of Stephen King, books turned into movies until I was much older. In the 90s is kind of, I kind of knew that he was,
because he did you had all the TV miniseries. That was where my connection with Stephen King adaptations came from.
I want to say like when that first, like, I knew that was a huge thing when it came on TV.
Oh yeah.
In the 80s. So that was probably the first I knew about it. And I want to say, like, I kind of remembered Carrie, knowing that was a Stephen King movie, but once again, it was probably much later. Getting ready for this episode, I completely forgot that John Carpenter was the director of this until it started. And I was like, oh, that's, interesting to, we covered a lot of John Carpenter movies on the podcast already, but this is one that I kind of forgot that he had a part of. So how long has it been since you watched it before rewatching it for the podcast?
Probably when I first saw it in the late 2000s.
Yeah. Not one that you kind of want to go back to on a regular basis.
No, it's not one of the better Stephen King movies.
No. All right, well, let's jump into story origin and pre-production. Don't have a whole lot to read here, so keep it brief. But Richard Kobritz, the producer of the 1979 miniseries Salem's Lot, had become familiar with Stephen King when he produced the series. King had sent him manuscripts of two of his books, Cujo and Christine. Kobritz was attracted to Christine's theme of America's obsession with cars, so he bought the rights to the novel. John Carpenter was Kobritz's first choice for the director, but Carpenter was initially unavailable due to two other projects, an adaptation of another Stephen King novel, Firestarter, and an adaptation of the novel The Ninja by Eric Van Lustbader. However, production delays on those projects allowed Carpenter to accept the director position for Christine. Carpenter and Kobritz had previously worked together on the 1978 TV movie Someone's Watching Me. Bill Phillips was Carpenter's choice for a writer, and he was brought on shortly after Carpenter arrived. Carpenter was joined by special effects supervisor Roy Obergast, who had previously worked with him on The Thing in 1982. Carpenter said that he didn't intend to direct Christine, and he saw it as a job rather than a personal project. He had previously directed The Thing, as we mentioned, which was poorly received, leading to critical backlash. Looking back, Carpenter has said that although he didn't find Christine very frightening, he felt that he needed to direct it at that time for his career. We both know The Thing is phenomenal.
Thing is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my favorites. For sure.
Yeah.
Just ahead of its time, or just I think that was one of those, like a lot of his movies, just it was released at the wrong time and couldn't find its audience based on other stuff that was out at the time.
Except this one.
Yeah.
This one wasn't ahead of its time.
No, not at all. So anything else about the Story of Dream pre-production that you know about?
I do not. My only thing is I know that they got the rights to it before. I don't know if it was officially before King had finished writing, but it was before the book was published, because I think the movie came out in like spring of '83, and then the book didn't come out until December, or vice versa. Scratch that.
Yeah. Because it was in paperback.
The book came out first. Yeah.
Right, but it was just hitting paperback when the movie hit. I remember reading that, so it was still fairly new. But they had started working on it before it was published.
Yeah. So. But yeah, the book did come out, but it was, I think the book came out in spring, and then this movie, I mean, I'm sure you'll say the date in a minute, but this movie I don't think came out until like December.
Yeah, December 9th. So you're right, December. I know you want to talk about the book and the differences because you actually read the book recently, which is one of the reasons why we decided to do this episode at this time. So you're like, hey, I'm reading Christine. You want to talk about that? I was like, sure, let's do it. So you want to talk a little bit about the book before we jump into casting, or you want to save it till later?
I mean, yeah, there's really not much to talk about other than, the connections and differences with the movie. I will say that book is a lot more graphic, which a lot of Stephen King is. It takes a little bit of a different twist, and so it was really surprising because I had seen the movie, obviously. I had never read the book. I just read the book just a couple of weeks ago, and reading through the book, I'm honestly, like I said, I hadn't seen the movie in probably a good decade. And I'm reading the book, and there's constantly times I'm going, I don't remember that from the movie.
Right.
And then there's other scenes that I'm reading, and I'm going, oh yeah, I remember that happening. But yeah, but like I said, we'll probably hit things as we're talking about moments from the movie and all.
I have a little blurb about it in my notes, but we'll wait till we get to scenes and trivia. So let's go ahead and jump into casting, which is an interesting cast for this movie, I would say. Not necessarily bad, just interesting. So we'll start with Keith Gordon as Arnie Cunningham. Gordon's first feature film role was that of class clown Doug in Jaws 2, the '78 sequel to Jaws. In 1979, he appeared in Bob Fosse's semi-autobiographical All That Jazz as the teenage version of the film's protagonist. Gordon then appeared in 2 films by Brian De Palma as a film student in home movies in '79, and in Dressed to Kill in 1980 as the son of Angie Dickinson's character. In the 1985 cult film The Legend of Billie Jean, he played Lloyd Muldaur, the son of district attorney who aspires to be attorney general. And what I remember him the most from, in 1986 comedy Back to School, he played Jason Mellon, the son of Rodney Dangerfield's character.
Yep.
In most of these films, he played a nerd, which
which works for him. He has that look. But yeah, Back to School was the only thing that I go, oh yeah, that's the guy from. That was it. I didn't know him from anything else.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that when I saw Jaws 2 much later after seeing Back to School, I was like, oh yeah, that's the kid from Back to School. But that Back to School is what I would know him the most from, for sure.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Kevin Bacon auditioned for the role of Arnie, but opted out when offered the lead in Footloose.
Oh, horrible decision, Kevin. Why would you make such a decision?
What were you thinking? Well, he had already done Friday the 13th, so I guess he was trying to kind of move away from the horror movie roles at that point, maybe.
Yeah, he couldn't have played the nerd though either.
Yeah, but I'll say for Keith Gordon, even though he is kind of a nerdy character in the other movies he's been in, when he's like the straight up nerd in this, like it's less believable than when he's like the sinister, or as he evolves, the cool kid or whatever. So the nerd felt like it was being laid on a little too thick for me. Like he was really trying a little too hard to be the nerdy character.
I think that's always the case though, when you've got a character that is supposed to later become like better looking and cool and all that, because they got to have that look, and then you're having to nerd them up. Is that it's almost that that cliche of movies like She's All That,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
the big.
Oh my god, that girl is so
Right.
nerdy. And
you mean when she takes off her glasses and lets her hair down, she's obviously hot all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Just like him, he's got the glasses at the beginning, then all of a sudden it's like, I don't need my glasses anymore. It's like, how did that, it's like that just kind of a line there that they just kind of brush past.
The power of Christine.
Yeah. And of course, Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man, when he's got his glasses and after he wakes up from being bit by the spider, he puts the glasses on, it's all blurry. It's like, oh, I've got perfect vision now. So,
and abs,
yeah. So that he didn't have to work for. Doggone superheroes. All right, and then we got John Stockwell as Dennis. Early in his career, Stockwell was an international model. During this time, he became a friend of Andy Warhol. His first feature film as an actor came in a small role in 1981's So Fine, which is a great title for a movie in the 80s. His best-known roles came in the 83 comedy film Losing It as Spider, later that year in Christine, and the 1985 comedy film My Science Project. In 85, he appeared in the poorly received City Limits. Though unsuccessful at the box office, it was later riffed in an episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000. He performed the highly acclaimed 1985 TV miniseries North and the South. And what I remember him most from, he played Cougar in Top Gun, his brief role at the beginning as Cougar, who lost it, couldn't go to Top Gun. He made guest appearances on TV shows, including The Young Riders and Friday the 13th, the series. He's also directed several films, including Cheaters in 2000, Crazy Beautiful in 2001, Blue Crush in 2002, Into the Blue 2005, and the 2016 Kickboxer reboot, Kickboxer Vengeance. And he also wrote the screenplay for the 2001 film Rockstar with Wahlberg and Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, okay. So I recognize more things that he did behind the camera.
Yeah, exactly.
than he did in front. I clearly would have seen him in Top Gun, but as you said, it was apparently such a small role. I didn't remember that.
Yeah, he's the pilot at the beginning that loses it trying to land on the aircraft carrier, and then decides he doesn't want to go to Top Gun. So, all right, and then we got Alexandra Paul as Lee. Paul began her career modeling in New York before landing her first major role in this movie. This was followed with prominent roles in Just the Way You Are in 84, American Flyers in 85, 8 Million Ways to Die in 86, and Dragnet in 1987. She is best known for her role as Lieutenant Stephanie Holden in the TV series Baywatch from 1992 to 97. She has performed in a total of over 100 movies and television programs that we will not list at this time. But Columbia Pictures had wanted to cast Brooke Shields in the role of Lee because of her publicity after the release of The Blue Lagoon in 1981, and they wanted Scott Baio, Chachi himself, as Arnie. The filmmakers declined the suggestion, opting to cast young actors who were still fairly unknown. So she was cast in the film after audition in New York. According to Carpenter, he said she was, quote-unquote, untrained young actress at the time, but she brought a great quality about the character to Lee. According to Paul, she had not read any of King's books or seen any of Carpenter's films, but she read the novel in preparation. So she really was a novice.
How did she read the novel? Did they get like an advanced copy?
What? Maybe so. Or at least maybe the manuscript they got. I don't know. That's a good question. When you get stuff from the internet, sometimes just doesn't make sense. So you were a Baywatch fan, so that's what you recognize.
I wouldn't say I was a Baywatch fan, but I did watch Baywatch when there was nothing else on. And I mean, she was essentially the female lead next to David Hasselhoff.
Okay. Gotcha.
As much as people connect, like Pamela Anderson and Carmen Electra and all of those to Baywatch. I mean, essentially her character was, she was like the second in command to David Hasselhoff. 100% recognized her from Baywatch.
Then we've got Robert Prosky, which is a name that I would not have known, but recognized him immediately as Will Darnell, the garage owner. He became a well-known supporting actor in the 80s with his roles in Thief in 81, The Natural in 84, and Broadcast News in 87. His other notable movies included Gremlins 2, The New Batch in 1990, which I definitely remembered him from.
Yep.
Hoffa in 92, Mrs. Doubtfire in 93, remembered him. Last Action Hero in 93, Rudy in 93. Yep. Miracle on 34th Street, the 1994 remake, Dead Man Walking in 95, and Mad City in 97. His most notable television role was of Sergeant Stan Jablonski on the TV police drama Hill Street Blues, which I've never seen an episode of, but I remembered it. I remember when it would come on at night, and I remember the theme song, and then I think it was time for me to go to bed, so I didn't get to watch it because it came on later. But according to Bill Phillips in the DVD commentary, he asked Phillips to give him more dialogue to make his character more interesting. Prosky cited the scene in the novel where Darnell offers Arnie a job, particularly the line, "You can pick up around the place, do a few lubes, and put the toilet paper on the spools." So Phillips added the scene to the script, keeping the dialogue almost verbatim from the novel.
I wish they had kept his death verbatim from the novel, because his death in the movie is stupid.
Right. Most of the deaths in the movie are stupid.
Yeah, again, like I said, the book is a lot more graphic.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, really, I don't know if it was just 83, the times of 83. I do know, which you might get into this with the trivia, I do know that there was a push for whether it would be rated. Of course, PG-13 didn't exist yet, so
right.
Of it getting the R rating. And so instead of ramping up the gore, they just put more profanity in the movie.
Yeah, that was in my notes. So yeah, I did see that, which is interesting. It is like not really gory at all. There's really not a lot of violence necessarily in it. It's an interesting choice. I don't know if that was Carpenter's choice or the script writer or the studio or what. So
I always blame the studio.
Always. All right, so then we got Harry Dean Stanton as Detective Rudy Junkins. In a career that spanned more than 6 decades, he's played supporting roles in films including Cool Hand Luke in 67, Kelly's Heroes in 1970, Dillinger in 73, The Godfather Part 2 in 74, Alien in 1979, Escape from New York in 81, Repo Man in 84, One Magic Christmas in 85, Pretty in Pink in 86, Wild at Heart in 1990, The Green Mile in 99, Alpha Dog in 2006. He had a rare lead role in Paris, Texas in 84, and in Lucky in 2017, which I have not seen either one of those movies, but definitely remember him from Alien, Escape from New York, Pretty in Pink, and The Green Mile.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah,
I was about to say, The Green Mile.
Yeah, it's like I knew there was one that jumped out at me because I just rewatched that a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I will say his character is a much kind of bigger part of the book.
I could see that.
Yeah, because in the movie, it's almost unnecessary for his character.
Yeah. Like he comes in so late in the movie.
Well, he comes in kind of late in the book too, but
okay.
Obviously it's a book, so there's a lot more even after he comes in. But yeah, but he's involved a lot more. There's a lot more of him questioning Arnie, and he even questions Lee at one point. And there's just, like I said, there's just a lot more to him. And then that very final scene of the movie where they're in the junkyard, like
right.
There's even more to that in the book. So
okay.
Yeah, I get they put him in there because he's in the book, but at the same time, they kind of just wasted that character and an actor because Harry Dean Stanton's a great actor.
Right. All right, we'll hit a few more that are ones that I recognized for sure because we've kind of covered all the major characters. I don't think there's anybody else that we might have left out that was a major character in this. But I did want to mention Roberts Blossom as George LeBay, the one who sold them the car.
Sold them the car and then went and saved Kevin McAllister.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, of course, we know him the most from The Next Door Neighbor and Home Alone. He was also the grumpy small town judge in Doc Hollywood in 91. He did guest spots on TV shows as Northern Exposure, The Twilight Zone, The Equalizer, Moonlighting, Amazing Stories, and Naked City. I haven't seen him on the Moonlighting episode yet. I'm still going through.
I'm sure clearly I've seen him on that episode. I just didn't remember. But immediately see him.
Yes.
Yeah, he's the neighbor from Home Alone.
Yeah. Well, as soon as he popped up, I was like, I know that guy. I want to mention this guy, William Ostrander, as Clarence Buddy Ripperton.
Oh, you mean the 40-year-old that was playing a high schooler?
Right, exactly. Only because I was like, were they trying to get somebody to look like John Travolta? Because that was like,
that too, yeah.
But he was definitely, when that first scene where they're in the garage, I'm like, okay, is this like a college student coming back to harass people? But even the college is a stretch because he had thicker sideburns than I did when I was 40. So, but anyway, Stephen Tash as Richie, one of Buddy's friends. Of course, I recognized him immediately as the male student. That's his role in Ghostbusters in the beginning. Yeah,
the one that Venkman shocks him over and over again, even when he's right.
Yeah. So I knew that. I recognized him immediately, and there wasn't, he hasn't done much of anything else either. And then a person that I thought was going to have more of a predominant role when they first showed her at the beginning was Kelly Preston as Roseanne, a friend of Dennis, who I would say is probably a lot prettier to me than Lee. Why he was not interested in her and more interested in Lee. I guess she was the new girl at school, which is why they were all kind of drawn to her. Maybe. But in the book, wasn't Lee more of a blonde than a brunette? Or am I?
Yes. No. They do describe Lee as blonde in the book. I probably would have pictured someone a little closer to Kelly Preston. Yes.
Yeah, Preston. Yeah.
Kelly Preston. Oh, you know what? That's funny that Kelly Preston was in, and then they had a guy that kind of looked like John Travolta.
Yeah.
But I pictured someone smaller because Alexandra Paul is tall.
Yeah, she was a model, so she's tall. Yeah.
So I pictured someone that was a little bit more, shorter, petite.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm reading the book, but yeah, I honestly, if that character is in the book, I do not remember. So I don't even know if that Roseanne character that Kelly Preston played is even in the book.
I don't think it says on here. I think this might have been, if it wasn't her first movie role, it was definitely one of her first. Of course, she was in Mischief in 85, Twins in 88, Jerry Maguire in 96, For the Love of the Game in 99. She married John Travolta in 91. And she was also in Space Camp in 86, The Cat in the Hat in 2003, Sky High in 2005, and Old Dogs with John Travolta in 2009. And R.I.P. Kelly Preston.
Yeah,
sorry that
passed away way too young.
Way too young for sure.
And now these messages.
Are you a fan of movies and TV shows inspired by comics? Ready for a podcast that dives deep into the thrilling world of adaptations? Well, look no further. Welcome to Moving Panels, the podcast where we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. This is your go-to podcast for all things comics on screen. I'm your host, Laramy Wells, and every Monday we explore the dynamic universe where ink meets action. We break down the classics, reveal hidden gems, and uncover the creative process behind your favorite adaptations. Subscribe to Moving Panels now on your favorite podcast platform and join us on this epic journey through the pages of comics and onto the big screen. Remember, new episodes drop every Monday. Don't miss out. Moving Panels, where every panel has a story and every adaptation is a blockbuster. Subscribe today, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
Curious about lip filler? Whether you want a subtle pout or bold plump, Juvederm lip fillers can give you a customized lip look. Juvederm Volbella XC and Juvederm Ultra XC can last up to a full year with optimal treatment, giving your lips added volume for smooth, natural-looking, and long-lasting results. Whether you're concerned about your thin lips or simply want fuller lips, ask about Juvederm lip fillers at your next appointment with your licensed specialist. And download the Alley app, that's ALLE, the official loyalty program of Juvederm, to save on treatments. For important safety information and to find a licensed specialist, visit Juvederm.com. That's JUVEDERM.com. Not for people with severe allergic reactions, allergies to lidocaine, or the proteins used in Juvederm. Common side effects include injection site redness, swelling, pain, tenderness, firmness, lumps, bumps, bruising, discoloration, or itching. There's a risk of unintentional injection into a blood vessel, which can cause vision abnormalities, blindness, stroke, temporary scabs, or scarring. Talk to a licensed specialist to find out if it's right for you.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate is the world's biggest coffee lover because we love all the ways you enjoy. Wait. Coffee Mate can't love coffee more than me. I'm a foodie. I went to Kyoto just for a nitro matcha latte. What? Oh, I have to finish the ad. Coffee Mate, for the love of coffee.
What seems to be the problem, pal?
There's just so much pain in the world, so many issues. I don't think I can bear it.
Hell, friendo, it sounds like you could use a dose of pop culture roulette.
Pop Culture Roulette? What's that? Some sort of pop culture themed podcast or something?
That's right, sonny boy. When hope seems far, dive into some PCR.
But I already get my entertainment news from Variety.
Huh, that's pretty good. If you're a chucklehead, PCR gives you news you need, condensed, unfiltered, and raw, from three nerds who know a little something about something.
Wow, okay, sign me up.
That's the spirit. Pop Culture Roulette. New episodes every Monday, available on all major podcast directories.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the differences from the book and the movie. I'm going to read the little blurb I have, and then you please expound if there's other stuff that it doesn't cover.
Yeah, we don't have time to talk about all of it.
Yeah. So, but according to the movie, Christine was evil from the day she rolled off the assembly line, injuring an inspector and killing another worker who dropped cigar ashes on a seat. In the book, Christine was just a normal 58 Plymouth Fury that was purchased by Roland LeBay, brother of George LeBay, the man who sold Christine to Arnie in the movie. It's Roland LeBay who made Christine evil, his love for Christine overriding even his love for his wife and daughter, both of whom died in the car. Thus, Roland's evil spirit became one with Christine. In both the book and the movie, Christine could drive herself and repair any damage so long as she was kept moving. When Roland died and with no one to love her and drive her around, Christine ceased living and began to show her age until Arnie came along. Roland's evil spirit and love for Christine was then transferred to Arnie. In the DVD commentary, Bill Phillips said that he cut out the novel's plot line of the dead owner's spirit possessing Arnie and actually causing Christine to kill, not only to save time and compress the story, but also because he didn't want to look like they were copying An American Werewolf in London, where Jack does the same thing to David. This despite the fact that in American Werewolf in London, David is a werewolf, and Jack does not possess David or even suggest that he kill anyone other than himself. So kind of a interesting.
Yeah, because what he's referring to there is that in the book, LeBay actually appears as like a dead corpse.
Gotcha. Much like American Werewolf in London. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like there's times where people will say they see this dead corpse driving Christine.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And then there is the fact that he is essentially possessing Arnie. And so Arnie starts to talk like him.
Okay. Makes more sense.
Yeah, Dennis is the narrator for a good chunk of the book. It does switch between Dennis narrating and it kind of just being your regular, omniscient narrator. But there's even parts where he describes how Arnie, when he looks at Arnie, sometimes he sees LeBay and he doesn't see Arnie. And there's even a part towards the end, I think it was towards the end, but there's even a part where all of the bullies that Christine, kills, or LeBay, I guess you should actually say kills, that their spirits or whatever are actually still riding along inside of Christine.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I usually understand when they say they're going to cut something because it's a movie, they got to cut for time and all that. I think with the fact that they already tell the story about how LeBay's daughter choked because they needed that to tie it to when Lee then chokes on the the burger.
Hamburger,
yeah. That it wouldn't have been that much trouble for that to be the case. Now, LeBay's brother in the book is a little bit more well-to-do.
Okay.
So the LeBay we get in the movie is more of the actual LeBay from the book. He even has the line, which I'm not going to repeat, of nothing smells like what he says. But that's a thing LeBay says because it's something that comes back later, and Arnie says it. I don't think you needed that much more time to have explained that.
Right.
Take out the actually having a corpse driving or have the corpse show up. But I think if you still kind of took it to they took the time to show that Christine kills the guy in the factory when she's made. I mean, you could have done just as much to tell the story of LeBay being so in love with the car that he eventually possesses it.
Right.
In essence. So
So other subplots in the book that didn't make it into the film or were changed. Roland LeBay himself sells the car to Arnie, but dies soon afterwards. Will Darnell uses the garage as a front for his smuggling business. Arnie gets arrested while smuggling cigarettes for Darnell. Darnell gets arrested on income tax evasion. It's implied that he'll cut a deal with prosecutors to tell what he knows about the car, and he is subsequently killed by Christine. The romance between Lee and Dennis is almost entirely removed, which I kind of thought it seemed somewhat implied towards the end of the movie, but didn't really go to fruition. Detective Junkins is killed by Christine near the end. Also in the book, Christine is vandalized at an airport. Sandy Galton, an airport worker and a friend of Buddy Ripperton's, serves as a lookout when Christine is vandalized. He soon skips town. At the very end is found to have been run over by a car, implying that Christine is alive again.
Since that's where you ended there, but I do want to go back and talk about Darnell's death.
Yeah.
So at the very end of the book, they do have where the cop is telling Dennis and Lee that they took Christine apart and that they put her through the metal compressor.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a part where he says that one of the workers got cut by Christine. And he says the guy says that the car bit him. And then when Dennis hears about the guy getting run down by another car, it's, they're clearly implying that when the worker was bit by Christine, that was LeBay's soul transferring over so that he could stay alive. I didn't mind the movie ending of Christine getting crushed, and then you see the one little part of her move.
Right.
I didn't mind that. In fact, I'll go ahead and say this. There's a couple that aren't great, but a lot of the Christine repairing herself scenes are amazing special effects.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That still hold up. Like I can't tell you how they did it. I mean, there's a couple of times there's a couple of times where you can tell that it's a shot done in reverse.
Right.
But then there's other times where if it is a shot done in reverse, it's shot in a way that it's not that obvious, and CGI wasn't really that big of a thing in 83. So yeah, it's really impressive. You might have this in your trivia. I'd love to know how many Furies they destroyed, but
I didn't get a number, or if I did, I didn't write it down, but I do have 15% of the budget was just on the cars. By the end of filming, all but 2 were destroyed.
Yeah, which is the funny thing, because Stephen King, when he wrote the book, he decided on the Plymouth Fury because it was a forgotten car.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't a very well-known car, and then here he goes, puts it in this movie, and he makes it now like one of the most sought-after cars,
right,
in the world of car collectors, because they want to own Christine. But like I said, I wanted to go back to Darnell's death. So Darnell's death in the movie, to me, is so stupid. The seat, Christine moving the seat up and essentially, squeezing him to death. It just wasn't much. Oh, here's another thing about the book. The book takes place, they kind of imply the timeline in the movie a little bit, but the book takes place, it's not, because the movie's set in California, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the book is not. The book is in like upper northeast area.
Always, yeah.
And so it is snowing, and there's like snowstorm going on.
Okay.
And so in the book, Christine comes to Darnell's house, and Darnell sees Christine outside, and he's like, well, I'm in my house. She can't get to me in my house, because he has already seen Christine move. He knows that there's something fishy. And then Christine, I'll try to make a long story short here, but Christine eventually like continues to pound through this ice, or the snow mound, denting her up and all that. But long story short, Christine drives through this man's house and tracks him down to run him over.
Wow.
And that, to me, is a much better
scene
than what we got. And it's a pretty intense scene because, Darnell's, I think at one point Darnell tries to go upstairs to get to her, or to get away, because she can't get upstairs, and he has a basement, so he's also hoping that Christine will eventually fall through the floor and gets stuck in the basement, but Christine just keeps barreling through everything until she just demolishes everything, and he falls, and Christine runs him over. And
wow,
so much better of a death scene. He's a piece of crap in the book.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just budget why they couldn't do that elaborate of a scene, but
I don't know. Didn't they do something like that though? There was another movie about a car and a ghost or whatnot. What was it called? I can't remember. But it was another, I'm pretty sure 80s movie that had like Randy Quaid in it, and was it Charlie Sheen?
Was that The Wraith?
The Wraith.
Yeah.
Didn't they have that car drive through a house?
I've never seen The Wraith actually, so that's one.
I saw it a long time ago.
That's one on my list of forgotten 80s flicks that I haven't watched. A lot of people talk about it like it's a favorite in like the 80s groups that I'm in, but I've never seen it. It's on my watch list one day.
I saw it once, and very much like Christine, it's one that I went, okay, watched it.
I can say it, yep, and put on my watch that I've watched it on my watch list. Yeah. So to talk about the car regenerating itself, so to do that, hydraulic pumps were installed on the inside of some of the film's numerous Plymouth Fury stunt doubles. A mock-up in plastic that looked more like metal on camera than actual metal as it bent and deformed. These pumps were attached to cables, which were in turn attached to the car's bodywork, and when they compressed, they would suck, or quote unquote, suck the paneling inwards. Footage of the inward crumpling body was then reversed, giving the appearance of the car spontaneously retaking form. So
yeah, it's a cool effect.
It's a great effect. Yeah,
really cool effect. Again, at the end when Dennis is crushing her with the bulldozer, and she's repairing like almost immediately, like that looked a little fake. But the initial scene where Arnie stands in front of her and says, "Show me," which I would like to point out, in terms of story wise in the movie, it makes no sense for him to all of a sudden just accept that I have this possessed car.
Right.
The book plays it out a lot better. The book, they pretty much talk about like, how is Arnie fixing up this car? Because all they know is that all they've known him to do was he put on a new antenna and some new wipers. And Arnie himself doesn't know. There's actually parts when it's not Dennis narrating. There's parts where Arnie actually thinks to himself, like when did I do this? Like, how did I do that? And then there's this reoccurring thing with his back hurting, and it's always like, how did you hurt your back, Arnie? Like that's actually what he's saying to himself. Like, you know, how did you? And so I kind of like a little bit more that Arnie is almost clueless to what's happening, because again, it's really LeBay's possession.
Right.
That is the part of him that knows. But when LeBay isn't in control, Arnie doesn't really know what's going on. So I kind of like that aspect. But there's also moments where there's a great scene. The scene from the movie that when Junkins is interviewing Arnie, and Arnie, it's described this way in the book. Arnie has to always put his hand on Christine, otherwise he has no confidence.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I just thought that was a great touch. Maybe a little harder to get across in a movie, but yeah, I mean, there was just so much more about it. And I don't know, I don't know what else you have left to talk about, but in the book, Arnie is not a part of that final battle. Arnie is not there. Dennis and Lee have finally gotten Arnie away from Christine long enough that he's kind of come to a little bit more.
Okay.
And he and his mom go to, I want to say it was Pittsburgh, because he's looking at colleges, and they're going to take a trip to Pittsburgh. And Dennis finds out later that on the way there, they're in a car crash. And then there's a line about how some witnesses said they saw 3 people in the car, which of course was supposed to be LeBay.
Right.
Which is then how Dennis knows how they were able to stop Christine, was because LeBay, realizing that the battle wasn't going well with Christine, he transferred himself over to there, because he could only be in one place, even his spirit could only be in one place at a time. So that's the other thing, is Arnie's mom dies in the book. with Arnie, and Arnie's father dies when towards the end when Christine shows up. The door opens up, or Dennis opens it. I can't remember. And Arnie's dad falls out. And you find out that we don't know. It doesn't even say like why he got into Christine. Dennis just kind of says Christine must have lured him in. He got in, and then he dies of, carbon monoxide poisoning. So again, a lot more tragic in terms of that ending.
Yeah.
When it comes to Arnie's family and himself, it's not just him getting thrown through the windshield and then having your cliche, jump scare moment at the end that he's not quite dead.
Right.
But again, it also kept with the fact that Arnie wasn't really a part of Christine killing people.
I did like that part in the movie where he was kind of oblivious to what Christine was doing as far as killing all the different people. I mean, he kind of knew eventually, but he was never there. Like he is not when he was in the car, you think so?
I think that they leave that up to the viewer, because when Christine is on her killing sprees, her windows are blacked out. So you don't know if Arnie's behind the wheel or not.
Right. Yeah.
So I think they kind of, and then of course at the end we know he's behind the wheel. So I think they kind of leave that up for interpretation. I guess that was Carpenter's idea, which I don't mind that.
Yeah.
But again, after reading the book, I kind of would rather Arnie not be a part of it, because that just kind of changes his character a bit.
All right, we kind of skipped over iconic and favorite scenes, but
I already mentioned mine. It's when Christine repairs herself.
Yeah, I say that's probably the most iconic scene for me. I was going to say that's probably the one that I would say is most iconic. I don't know if I really have any favorite scenes in the movie. I mean, it's okay, but there's nothing that was like, oh, it's so great.
So one, I'm not going to say great, but there's because I'm about to talk about one of the murders. But the very first one, when she goes after Moochie, it has always stuck with me. Where he goes into the alley and the alley's too narrow for Christine, but then Christine just pushes through and crushes herself in order to kill him. It's a great death scene. In the book, he is trying to get to the alley.
Okay.
But doesn't make it, and Christine runs him down, backs over him, runs over him again, backs over him. I mean, it is a very graphic scene in the book. And the same thing with Buddy, and I can't remember the other guy's name. I think there's 3 people in the car when they die. That's not a, gas station explodes and then runs Buddy down.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That doesn't happen in the book at all. In the book, she literally comes up behind them, and Buddy tries to outrun her and can't, and then they end up going off a hill or a cliff or something, which doesn't immediately kill them. And Christine again kind of tracks them down and make sure that they're all dead. I didn't mind the scene though it's a cool look for the movie to have the gas station explode and then and then run Buddy down. Although again, Buddy gets such a head start on Christine. With Christine peeling off away from the gas station, and then you don't see Buddy for a good while. I'm like, good, how fast is dude running?
Right.
And then it's such a quick death though, because then you just see her go away, and you have to realize, oh, that's Buddy's body on fire there.
Exactly. Right.
On the,
rolling, on the asphalt. Yeah.
Again, cool look, having Christine on fire.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a cool scene. The Christine being on fire while chasing after him from the tearing into that gas station was pretty one of the more intense death scenes, I think, for me.
Yeah, like I said, very very cinematic death scene.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I understood why you would change it, because in the book, probably not extremely cinematic with it just being kind of a car chase, and then Christine kind of takes them out by running them over. But I think it worked better. But very different from the book.
Gotcha. All right, let's hit a few more trivia things and we'll start to wrap this one up. So there'll be more trivia in the show notes, so be sure to check those out. The movie playing during the drive-in scene is Thank God It's Friday from 1978, which features a running gag where a character's cherished automobile keeps getting damaged both deliberately and inadvertently throughout the film. That was pretty good. Little nod there. And then probably my favorite story from behind the scenes is Alexandra Paul's twin sister, Carolyn Paul, as a joke, stood in for her during the scene during the ride on the bulldozer. According to Paul, she took her sister to the set and said, with the help of the hair, makeup, and wardrobe department, she dressed up as Paul's character Lee and went to the set with John Stockwell to shoot the scene. They shot her sister Caroline helping drive the bulldozer, and then Paul walked out and jokingly asked John Carpenter if he had fired her. Carpenter later admit he thought there was something different about her, but couldn't put his finger on it. So
That's funny. I actually knew she had a twin sister, but totally forgot it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until you mentioned that I was like, oh yeah, I did know she had a twin sister.
And then the last little thing I have here is while he was promoting the film adaptation of Dreamcatcher in 2003, Stephen King mentioned that Christine as one of the two film adaptations of his work that had quote unquote bored him. I was like, I didn't say what the other one was. Yeah,
I can see that. What's funny is the other one was Maximum Overdrive, which he directed. I don't know. I'm just. I will say, going back to the movie, when she chokes on the burger, I like the way that scene was kind of played out. The person who saves her is actually a hitchhiker they had picked up earlier.
Okay. Not just the person in the car next door.
Not just a random dude. But yeah, it was a hitchhiker they had picked up, and Arnie had gotten like real jealous. Of course, again, it's LeBay, but had gotten real jealous of him and was happy to get rid of him. And then she chokes, and they stop to get something to eat, and they actually do get him something to eat. And then he's the one that does that, and so that made it a little bit more sense for him, Arnie, to be jumping out of the car and going, "Get your hands off of her." Makes a little bit more sense. But that scene plays out a little bit more too, because she starts choking and Arnie's actually in the car.
Okay.
And Arnie actually tries to pat her on the back but then there's moments where he just stops and just looks at her while she's choking. So I think that, a little bit more, that's more of a horror movie moment.
Right.
But I will say I did like, how the light brightened up when it happened. And and that's where in the book, that's more where Lee realizes that Christine is trying to kill her, and it's a big thing if she never wants to be in the car again, and kind of stops dating Arnie for a little while, and that's more where the relationship between Dennis and Lee start is after that moment. So yeah, like I said, there's a lot in the book that this is not a very good adaptation of the book.
Yeah, which we kind of knew going in. I mean, we've covered we've covered one that Stephen King was very pleased with, the adaptation of Stand By Me.
Yeah, and Stand By Me is pretty good adaptation.
Yeah, and then the other one, of course, is Shawshank Redemption, which he's praised on occasion.
Greatest movie ever. So
yeah,
I don't care what Stephen King had to say. But yes, I've read that one too, and yeah, it's a good. Other than Red not being a redheaded white Irish dude,
right?
Yeah, but man, Morgan Freeman's so good.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's talk about box office and critical reception. Christine was released in North American theaters on December 9th, 1983. In its opening weekend, it brought in over $3 million, landing at number 4 at the box office. It was beaten by 2 other new releases that week, Scarface at number 2 and Sudden Impact, which debuted at number 1.
Sudden Impact beat out Scarface?
Yeah.
Wow.
That tells you how big of a movie star Clint Eastwood was in the late 70s, early 80s, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, Scarface is just, I mean, you ask some people nowadays, they don't know what Sudden Impact is.
No, yeah.
They know what Scarface is.
For sure.
Man. And amazing to think that $3 million and it placed 4th.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
$3 million now would just be, oh, that was a huge flop.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Mr. Rotten Tomatoes gave it 70% on the tomato meter with a 64% audience score. IMDb, which is not too far off, 6.8 out of 10 with viewers, and a 57 on Metacritic, which I think is actually kind of high for Metacritic. But yeah. I'm going with the audience score for Rotten Tomatoes. 64 seems pretty accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, I would be in the 60s with that one as well. Again, it's not great. It's not one you're gonna want to just watch again.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you're not necessarily gonna dislike it while you're watching it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it is fairly entertaining. Like, it didn't hold my attention as well as I would have liked. It's still pretty long. It's right at 2 hours, so it's pretty lengthy, and it drags in a couple of spots. But overall, it's not terrible. But it could have been a lot better for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, if they had, and I know it was 83, but I mean, come on, we had seen more gore in Halloween and Friday the 13th. Because I honestly do not think, especially once you mentioned it earlier, I don't think you see a drop of blood anywhere in this movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was, and I don't remember.
Yeah, because Buddy is run over, but he's on fire. The kid that gets blown up in the gas station, you don't see his body or anything. Right. I don't even think when Moochie is crushed, I think you just see him lunge forward, but I don't think you see anything.
Yeah. Even
of course, Darnell being crushed, like you would think maybe blood comes out of his mouth or something, but no, he's in fact still got a cigar in his mouth, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Even the guys at the beginning in the factory, like, it closes on his hand, and that's you know, that's, but you don't see any blood.
You see it wrapped up as he's, and I don't even think the wrapping is red. I think it just show it wrapped up. Yeah, I don't think there's a drop of blood in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they hadn't ramped up the language, this would have been rated PG.
And I wonder if Carpenter was trying to scale it back because maybe he felt like The Thing didn't do as well because it was too much on the horror end and not. So, but.
Yeah, which movie do we remember now, though, John Carpenter?
I definitely remember The Thing. Yeah.
Which movie is talked about more?
Yeah. I will gladly put in The Thing to watch on a regular basis over
absolutely.
This one.
Absolutely. Yeah, the only reason The Thing is one you don't watch an awful lot is because how gory it is.
It's but it's so well done.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's stomach opening up and eating the guy's arms, like that is burned into my mind. And so if I can go a little bit while without actually seeing it and just having it in my mind, I think I'm better off.
All right, well, thanks, Laramy, for joining. Anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap it up? I think we've talked about it pretty well.
Yeah, no, I think that pretty much covers it. Again, I'm always game for you've had me on for several books turned into movies. Funny enough, I'm actually reading another Stephen King one that was turned into a movie, but it was in the 80s. I'm reading Gerald's Game right now.
Okay.
Which
is
that
was
Netflix.
a Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah, Netflix movie. So yeah, but I'm always game for these, and I love Stephen King, even if I haven't read the book.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that was one of the things, like, this past why I watched this past Halloween was because of, like, I hadn't seen a lot of the early ones. So I watched Carrie, which is not an 80s movie. I watched Christine. I'm trying to think what else. Cujo I haven't seen yet. I remember seeing Cujo as a kid, or like we saw it on TV, but I'm sure I watched most of it with my head in my pillow because I wasn't ready to really watch it. I saw Pet Sematary, which is like late 80s. That was like 89. I remember seeing that one.
That's a good one.
And I saw Maximum Overdrive, so I've seen that one.
Firestarter.
I watched that this past Halloween too. So I did catch a few of those. So we'll try to get more of the Stephen King 80s flicks here in the mix.
And of course, The Shining.
Yeah, but we don't want to talk about that.
We have talked about that. What are you talking about?
Talked about? Yeah, I know, but I don't want to talk about it again. It was enough the first time. All right, well, thanks, Laramy, for joining. Be sure to follow, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Support the show through buymeacoffee.com. buy a t-shirt or sweatshirt from the website. And of course, you can go to tpublic.com as well to see the all new designs. We have our new email address, info@80sflickflashback.com, so drop us a line. If you enjoyed the episode, share it with someone who loves 80s flicks as much as you do. And be sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. That's it for the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. I'm Tim Williams. Good night, good people.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.